If you had told me at the start of 2026 that the game I would have put the most hours into this year was No Rest for the Wicked, a Souls-leaning action RPG that's also in the depths of early access, I'd have told you you were out of your mind. And I definitely wouldn't have guessed it was made by Moon Studios, the team behind Ori and the Blind Forest and its even better sequel, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. This series had storytelling, striking art style, fluid traversal systems, and genuinely some of the best heart-in-your-mouth escape sequences in the genre. So, whilst I loved both of those games, they never looked like this. So join me as I do my best to unpack why No Rest for the Wicked, a Souls-like ARPG that I was never meant to like, has completely flipped my expectations on an entire genre and may well be my favourite game of the year so far. No Rest for the Wicked has you taking up arms as the Serim, a kind of holy warrior called back to the island of Isola Sacra to investigate a rumour that the plague your people defeated 1,000 years ago is threatening to return. The journey, of course, doesn't go smoothly, and you wake up on a beach with nothing but your loincloth and your fists. Your first real objective is reaching the town of Sacrament. If, like me, you immediately opt for the punch crab until problem solved approach, you'll very quickly realise that combat in No Rest for the Wicked is the hinge point for the entire experience. If the action doesn't work, everything built on top of it tends to collapse. Thankfully, this has clearly been an area the devs have invested time into. Combat has a real organic weight to it, with genuinely visceral moments throughout. And yes, weight is the go-to trope word everybody uses to describe this, but here it's a bit more specific than that. Every weapon has a distinct feel the moment you pick it up. Moon Studios have done an incredible job with the audio-visual identity of each weapon. Hit someone with a heavy club and there's a real smush to it. Switch back to a rapier and everything becomes quicker, lighter, more precise, and as you might expect, will change how you approach a given combat scenario. Even between weapons of the same type, you're going to start to see differentiation. This means that no two weapons have the same moveset. For example, heavier bows visually have a slower, stronger drawback and a moveset to reflect it, and the lighter bows incorporate bounding leaps that would make Bambi jealous. Each weapon that I've used so far, and I've not even used all of them yet, is just so much fun to pick up and engage with. There's no real better way to describe what it's like. It actually makes it really hard to settle on something to stick with, which for a game like this is a really good problem to have. Case in point, at the start of my very first run, I was thinking I'd settle into the standard sword and board build. Balanced, right? This was until I picked up dual daggers called Brother's Keeper in the first chest that I opened. The quick darting stabs and this Uno reverse rune attack had me completely hooked on this style of play, and I stuck with it right up until the end game of that first run. Speaking of rune attacks, these are essentially your special moves. Each weapon comes with its own unique rune, and you can slot in up to 3 additional runes from weapons in the same category to customize your approach to combat. This system feels like it strikes the perfect balance between meaningful attack options without creating analysis by paralysis, especially if, like me, this genre is relatively new for you. On top of this, you have the enchanting and rune system. I'll spare you the heavy details here, but essentially you get access to 4 tiers of gear. You have common, which are fully customizable through gem slots, rare, fewer gem options but stronger baked-in enchantments, played, which is often the most powerful gear but with a built-in negative trait, and unique, rare and powerful but often lock you into a specific playstyle and aren't always readily available. Builds with all of these tiers of items are viable into the late game, but we'll touch on overall balance a little bit later. Stat distribution and build variety are limited in the sense that the only stats that truly matter are health, so how many times you can get hit before you die, stamina, how many times you can act before you die, and focus, how many times you can do all the cool stuff before you die. Because you are going to die in this game. A lot. The other stats only exist currently to provide barriers to entry for weapons and their damage scaling. The devs are already planning a large update to this, however, so for the time being, there's little to see here. Simply chuck a few of your early points into stamina and health, gives you a little bit more wiggle room in fights, then begin to level up stats that fit your favourite weapon pickup. You've also got the option later on in the game to respec, and it's not got a huge barrier for entry, so don't feel like you're going to get too locked into one style of play. So okay, the weapons feel good and there's a level of customizability, but how does that work within a combat scenario? Lethality is the name of the game here, the hallmark of Souls-type combat systems, meaning that positioning and timing are of critical importance. Understanding your own weapon's strengths and weaknesses gives you the best chance of survival, especially when encountering new enemies whose attack patterns you've not worked out yet. And there's a whole lot of different enemies in this game. Button mashing can work in a pinch, but for the most part, it's going to get you killed, especially versus enemies with longer combos or retaliatory attacks should you get too close. Whilst I think it's fair to say that the game is objectively difficult, and especially for someone who is new to this kind of combat, nothing in this game ever felt insurmountable, even for me. And the satisfaction of beating a new foe or a boss that's been troubling you always gives you that fist in the air triumphant feeling and makes all the failure worth it. When you're not forging ahead with the main story, the game offers daily and weekly challenges and bounties, giving you an opportunity to gather valuable resources and items. Alongside this, there's a 10-stage roguelite mode called the Crucible, awaiting those looking for more places to farm gear and potentially test out your latest build. All of this is compounded by some really phenomenal level design. The verticality and interconnectivity of the maps is done incredibly well and very fluid. There's just enough secrets to keep you wanting to explore, but it's not so large that you feel the necessity to fast travel everywhere. Oh, and did I mention that they've just added up to 4-player co-op? Unfortunately, until someone joins me for a journey through this game as a team, I'm going to have to save my thoughts on that for another video. To fuel all this rampant adventuring, you're going to need the tools and the resources to do so. And trust me, you are going to be gathering a lot of resources. Each time you head out, you're going to end up doing some form of foraging, fishing, mining, chopping, digging, and acquainting yourself with the local fauna. Gathering resources isn't a complicated process. Simply press your action button of choice and this little timing window appears. Hit the right timing and you get reminded you're perfect just the way you are. And you get a higher chance for additional materials to drop. Resources also fold us nicely back into how the levels are designed. The resource nodes are placed generously and don't feel out of place. Whilst my feelings might change upon 1.0, in its current state, this doesn't feel like just busy work. This is because it's always leading you back to No Rest for the Wicked's strongest point, combat and exploration. By the time you get back to the game's main hub city of Sacrament and realise you're a few pine trees short of a plank, it's actually just an excuse to go back out and enjoy the fight. Speaking of Sacrament, this is Early Access's primary hub town, with additional hubs coming in 1.0, although details have been quite slim on just how expansive this is going to get. I'm not naturally someone who leans towards games with a huge amount of town management, but here I find the enforced downtime actually works in the game's favour. Especially as you learn the combat in the game, one of the better ways to let yourself rewire and learn new enemy patterns is to take a break from all the hack and slash. Once you're back in Sacrament, you'll end up visiting the various vendors for ways to enhance your build that little bit further or to beat that latest challenge, or explore new weapon options and returning quests, pushing the various NPC relationships further and progressing the story. One of my favourite touches in this game is the persistent changes to the world state as you level up the vendors. Each vendor doesn't just gain a more substantial selection of loot, their literal abode grows in size and complexity as you invest resources in them. This makes Sacrament feel like an actual city that you're investing time into, rather than just a place where you come back, click through a various menu, and leave as quick as you can. The devs have also recently given you a reason to engage with its house building system, other than it's nice having a pretty home. Speaking of things that look nice, I don't think I'm going to have to convince anybody here, but visually, this game is stunning. I mean, just look at it. Everything about the approach to the visuals here is intentional. For example, there are multiple areas within the game where the camera sort of peeks over into the distance. This is a subtle way of both guiding the player towards their next objective, whilst also giving you the scope of just how expansive a region truly is. The game has a kind of grim realism, although opting for the paintbrush over the airbrush. For some of you, this may remind you of Arcane's approach with the Dishonored series, as the games have quite a similar visual style. Textures quite literally have the brushstrokes visible. Characters have exaggerated proportions, although they are stylized without becoming full caricatures. In the design of some of the plague enemies, it actually dips its toes in the pool of body horror, which really took me by surprise. Some of these designs are quite harrowing. Thankfully, it never slips into the cartoonish territory. The visuals are still grounded in order for you to feel the weight of the drama happening on the screen and ensure that you buy into the world. Each faction has a clear, distinct cultural style, be it the Madrigal's hyper-religious Men of the Cloth, or the antagonistic Balak Tar, the frantic Men of the Beak? Another huge point of praise here has to go to the facial animations during the cutscenes. They have punched well above their weight for a game in this genre and match incredibly well with the stellar voice acting. Well, if you exclude Medieval Dobby from the tutorial.
I fixed up your bed myself. Real nice like. Don't fret if you can't
Why does he
sleep.
sound like this?
First few weeks aboard, I couldn't catch a wink. I am a free deckhand.
When it comes to the audiovisual package on display here, Moon Studios appear to have set out to do for ARPGs what Larian did so well for turn-based RPGs with Baldur's Gate 3. Take a medium where the visuals often play a clear second to the systems and give it the cinematic makeover it deserves. And can we just pause here to thank whoever decided to make parries sound like this? The satisfaction I got from this meant I actually learned the parry system instead of relying entirely on the dodge mechanic. Job well done. As with any early access game, there are some things that I think are worth keeping in mind with regards to its future. For those uninitiated in these kind of genre or blend of genres, it's currently quite hard to understand the systems. Whilst I would say learning as you go is a part of the fun, I think it is in the best interest of the game to make the tools for learning clearly accessible to the players. Next would have to be balance. To me, this comes as no surprise. Personally, I don't pick up an early access game to have perfect balance, but the team is able to satisfy both the casual fan and the more hardcore audience upon release. The final thing would be, how do I put it? Scope creep. They want to do a lot with this game, which unfortunately could leave some systems underbaked or the elements that I've loved so far with less polish than I would hope for a fully released game. Even in its current early access state, this game is hours of fun. If anything, making this video has only made me want to jump in more and put more hours into a game I've already put, frankly, too many hours into. I would always encourage people to be skeptical, especially about promises made in early access, but my fingers are crossed that they will deliver on this as the game reaches further into its development. Okay, No Rest for the Wicked isn't finished. It's not perfectly balanced, and it doesn't explain itself as well as it should at times. What's here already? A combat system with incredible weight and consequences, a world that feels handcrafted rather than pre-generated, and a foundation strong enough to carry something genuinely special. I highly recommend dipping your toes into No Rest for the Wicked now, especially if anything in this video has piqued your interest. Let me know in the comments if this helped move you off the fence and decide to grab it while it's in the Steam summer sale. With 1.0 now officially set for October, I'll be back in a Solar Sacra soon enough to see if Moon Studios can stick the landing.